a brief update of what's happening here with the Ohio State Food Waste Collaborative. This group started in December of 2015. We're about 2.5 years into our existence as a collaborative, and as you'll see here from the updates going around the horn here today, lots of activities in the food waste, food recovery, and related spheres. We'll be hearing from a number of individuals associated and affiliated with the collaborative, including Andrew Jones, who's now a research associate here at OSU. Meredith and Katie are here with me here in Ag and Min at Ohio State in Columbus. Mike Fackler hopefully will be joining us here, students, as well as John Apolzin from LSU, Pennington Biomedical Research Center. Julia Hilty, a research associate here at OSU, will also be joining us and giving us a quick update. And then Julie and I will bring us home here at the end today, talking about other research and funding and project updates and fall event planning, and then time for some questions at the end, if that's allowable. So with that, looks like we've got a fair number of other people who jumped on here. Excited to be able to share this with you. So first, Andrew, are you ready? We'll let you unmute. I guess everybody should probably mute unless you're speaking, just because of craziness of feedback and such. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Andrew Jones, and he'll talk for about 3 minutes about the Black Soldier Fly project. Take it away, Andrew.
All right. Can you guys hear me okay? Good? All right, perfect. So hi, everyone. My name is Andrew Jones. I'm here to talk to you guys about upcycling organic waste streams using insects, in particular using the black soldier fly. Now, the black soldier fly, also known as Hermetia aleutians, is native to the Americas, but has since spread worldwide, and the adult is different from other fly breeds in that it does not eat anything during its adult life. It only flies around, mates, lays eggs, drinks water, and maybe pollinates some flowers when looking for nectar. This means that the adult flies normally only live for about 1 week. They're not vectors of disease because they're not interested in landing on your hamburger after floating around the trash bin. And they can't bite anything, meaning they're not a nuisance to any animals or to any humans either. That's really neat, but the larvae themselves really stand out for their usefulness. Black soldier fly larvae are voracious consumers of organic waste, breaking down something like a loaf of bread in hours instead of weeks to months for other composting or upcycling methods. And all that's also with a fairly low-tech process. At the end of the process, we're left with a small amount of residue that can be used for compost, and the majority of the output is the larvae themselves, which can be used as a high-protein supplement in the livestock feed of poultry, swine, and fish. I've worked with the larvae of the black soldier fly for about 5 years now, and Rust Belt Riders, a waste hauling company up in Cleveland, and my company Larvio Bioconversions have partnered with OSU to conduct a pilot to assess the effectiveness of black soldier fly larvae at processing mixed waste streams like what comes out of the Ohio Union dining area. Larvio will be providing the larvae necessary for the project and pertinent larval knowledge. Rust Belt will be operating a duplicate shipping container facility up in Cleveland so we can run our experiments in parallel. We're testing the processing capabilities and economic viability of using black soldier flies to process waste in a 45-foot shipping container that is located on the Waterman Student Farm next to Lane Avenue. Currently, we have the shipping container in place and are finalizing aesthetic concerns and have scheduled the necessary electrical and insulation work and are beginning to order the required infrastructure. We're hoping to begin processing waste from the Ohio Union as early July, and we'll continue to do so until our grant runs out, which should last for approximately 1 year. And that is my synopsis of where we're at and where we're going. Thanks, guys.
Any burning questions from around the group? We've got time for maybe about 30 seconds to a minute of questions. If not, you can also post questions to the comments section. We can try to loop back to those at the end as well. I will note that Sarah Grossman, an undergraduate student here in the EADS program at Ohio State, is also helping out with this project, and she's completed a nice literature review that we hope to be able to share around fairly soon. All right, so let's turn to the talent here in the room. The OSU Food Flows Project, Meredith Kruger and Katie LeBlanc here, to talk a bit about what's going on with that.
Hi, I'm Meredith Kruger. So I've been working on the food flows inventory since about September of 2017. And the goal of the work is to inventory all the food flowing into and through campus, where it's flowing, where it's going, the different waste streams, and where they end up. So we've gotten to a point here going into the summer where we have a really strong partnership with the University Dining Services, and are starting to get to know better and work with the Medical Center and the OSU Athletics and the Business Advancement and the catering groups around campus. And I'm going to be leaving the position, and Katie's going to be starting. So we're in a transition moment right now with the position. But I guess the last thing that I'll describe about what we've done so far is really focused on documenting the process of flows. So where is food flowing, and like what kind of technology or diversion practices happen at each place, and mapping that out in both a flow chart format and a geographical map. So I'll let you talk about the next steps about the August meeting.
My name is Katie LeBlanc, and I recently taking over for Meredith, and I actually have known Meredith for a little while, working on the Ohio Food Policy Network Council and sort of things like that. I have been doing this work for a number of years in my personal, at Murray State University and at University of Montana, where I also received degrees from those locations. And I'm excited to be a part of this program. What I'm really looking at in moving into this position and making it my own is picking up where Meredith left off as far as data collection goes, but also being able to build relationships interpersonally and being able to establish some sort of networking, some sort of group for cross-education, informing one another, and creatively brainstorming what does intervention look like for each respective place, and identifying the stakeholders and being able to see that through. I will be working alongside with Brian, and if you all have any questions or anything, or if you would like to have a transition email or something like that, let Meredith know if you happen to have her information. But yeah, I'm excited to get to know you all, and seeing how work we're doing is also going to impact with you all.
Great, thanks guys. Some exciting work there, including we've got hours of very interesting footage of trays coming back through the cafeteria. If anybody wants to stare at trays from our cafeteria line and see what food is being left over, you can have some interesting views of that data. But we're looking forward to that project, and feel great about being able to understand what's going on here in our own mini city of Ohio State campus. Next, I think Mike's on the line, Mike Fackler, and part of the Food Waste Fighters Club here, founder of that club. And do you want to talk a bit about the food recovery efforts that you've undertaken?
Sure, yeah. So I'm Mike Fackler. I'm a second-year student here. I guess I just finished my second year, so I'm moving into my third year. I'm taking over as the Food Recovery Network lead. And as Brian said, I started the Food Waste Fighters. So I've got a few notes as to what we did this year, what we're hoping to do next year. In terms of recovery, we had 3,000, right around 3,000 recordable items of recovery for our first semester, which was comprised of 3 different locations on campus for the most part, as well as some break, right before break pickups that were significant. We had more than just 3,000 items, but we were only able to record about right around 3,000 items due to lack of inventory sheets. So we'll work on that next year. We've had a fantastic partnership with the dining services group, especially Kathy Seraph, and the cafe managers, the cafe operations managers, as they help us coordinate this effort and get their teams together and train their teams to put together this stuff for us to pick up very easily. We're expanding, hopefully next year. Hopefully we'll do morning cafe pickups on a few different days throughout the week. That would be very exciting. We had one trial period before the end of the year that went pretty well. So, we're hoping to expand that program on and forward. And in terms of future plans for that recovery group, we're planning on tracking the caloric values to kind of correlate that to meals and really show our impact. We're adding in a new executive team member. We're losing our former president, Steph, but we're gaining in a new exec team member, Logan, and she was somebody who hauled for us last year throughout the semester, and she's very tied into the community, and she does it on her own, the food recovery on her own as well. So she'll be a great new team member for the expansion of this project. In terms of food waste fires, we did have our food waste photo contest this year, and that was a hit as previously reported, and hopefully we'll be able to do that again next year, and hopefully we'll have more widespread pictures coming in, and we started receiving more interest in the food waste fighters after the contest ended, with other organizations that want to be involved in a project-based way, such as the green engineers. Finally, we're this summer we're working on advancing the partnerships we have with the university, as well as our recruiting efforts for this upcoming school year to grow the organization, make sure we have as much of an impact as we can. Myself and the vice president of the food waste fighters, John Conroy, are working on doing that all this summer. So that's pretty much it in terms of updates from the student orgs that I'm a part of. I know that Sarah Grossman does really cool stuff as a student as well. So there's a lot of other student updates, but this is what I've got, and that's all I can report out on now.
Mike, can you briefly say where you've been taking the recovered food from dining services to? Who are the recipients?
Sure. Yeah. So we take it to OSU Star House, Faith on 8th. There's a few different places we go to, but I'd say primarily we go to OSU Star House and Faith on 8th. There's Saint Sophia's, Saint Suzanne's. I'm not familiar with the name, but we take to them as well. It's all a matter of who's got the need, and we're coordinating that with the Food Rescue US people, and making sure that we're getting it where it needs to go, so it's not going to waste.
Great. Thanks, Mike. I'll note that dining services and other food entities on campus have been doing some very good work to recover food, but your group really allowed them to take it to the next level because you were able to fill in gaps with your group members and effort and coordination. So building on a strong tradition and taking it to the next level, it's great. Let's see. I think John's on. John, you want to talk a bit about what's going on down in Louisiana at Pennington Biomedical Research Center?
Sure, I'm John Applebaum. I'm an assistant professor here at Pennington.
John, we can barely hear you. Can you get a little bit closer to the mic?
Yes. Hello, I'm John Applebaum. I'm an assistant professor here at Pennington. We collaborated with Brian Corby, Martin and I collaborated with Brian on a USDA project. And what we have created is an app to examine food waste. It's called Food Image. You can actually download it now from the App Store. It has eat, shop, prep, and toss modules, all of which can be quantified. So we've created the app, and like I said, it can be downloaded. So now we're in the process of running the validation study. We have 14 people who, as of today, have now completed the in-person laboratory validity test. We have then, besides the in-person validity test versus actual weighed food waste, we have a free living portion as well. And in the free living portion, we're just having people collect about a week of free living data. And in the second week, they're randomized to an intervention. And either they get behavioral nudges to reduce food waste, or they get essentially a control group, which gets nudges for stress and things like that. So essentially no change in food waste. So now for part 2, we have actually 6 people completed and about 6 people that are in process that are collecting data during these 2 one-week periods. And so things are going really well with the study. Subject recruitment is going well. And actually, we seem to be on time in terms of the grant timeline as well.
Thanks so much, John. I'll note this is part of a USDA-funded grant that's helping power this development. But you guys have a long tradition of developing these apps, and It's been great to work with you guys. And the fact that this is one of the few grants I've ever been on that's actually on time. So it's largely because of the Pennington group doing such a great job down there. That's maybe one thing so they can see the app on the App Store, John, right? And they can even download it, but its use really can only be used when it's paired with being recruited into a study. Is that right?
That is correct. Pretty much you can take a look at it and things like that, but you can't usually get its full utility unless it's paired with a study or with all of us in some manner. But yes, the study is going well, and we've appreciated the collaboration. It's been very bi-directional and positive.
Great. So if you want to download that app, again, it's the Food Image app. You can download and look at it. Its true functionality, though, is in a research setting, so it's only going to kind of come to life when you're kind of enrolled in a study with us, and it follows a long tradition of work that Pennington has done there, along with Corby Martin, who couldn't be with us today on the call, but is also a key collaborator in the collaborative and at Pennington. Well, great. Next, we'll bring on Julia Hilty, who's leading some research and hopefully soon some outreach efforts on food date labeling and donation rules. Julia?
Hi, I'm Julia Hilty, and I am working on the food date labeling project. The food date labeling project has been examining food date labeling policies and exploring potential changes to existing laws and regulations to reduce food waste by standardizing food date labels. We've reviewed various proposals at the state and federal level and evaluated Ohio's current law and rules concerning food date labeling and food donation law. And we saw a few opportunities for improvement in Ohio's current food date labeling scheme. First, under the current scheme, Ohio currently requires date labels only for packaged perishable food with a quality assurance period of 30 days or less. This does not include fresh fruits or vegetables, meat or poultry, and we also require date labels on shellfish. Second, the date label phrases themselves that we're required to use are at times inconsistent. Third, outside of packaged perishable food and shellfish, Ohio law is silent, which allows manufacturers to use a broad range of date labels on their packaging. And fourth, date labeling law and food donation law could be improved to provide for more consistency between the two. With the idea of improving food date labeling law and food donation law in place, we then started having initial conversations concerning what these potential changes could look like. As a result of these conversations, we obtained draft language suggesting one way to make improvements to Ohio law. We used this draft as a starting point to engage in the review and editing process. This process underwent several rounds as we first performed our own review and edits, and then we solicited input from others that were working in this space. The process helped us identify places where the draft could be improved, like where we could further improve cohesion between food date labeling law and food donation law, where we could improve the verbiage, and where the draft could be improved to provide for consistency with current GMA and FMI recommendations. So based on that review and editing process, we then engaged in a second round of conversations, and that's currently where we are. We're having conversations about our suggested edits to that first draft. Next steps in the project include receiving a second draft of language, which will hopefully include many of the suggestions we made, building infrastructure, and providing meetings and education to key constituencies.
Great, yeah. And I'll just note that Julia's been leading this effort. She's got her law degree and has worked actively with the Harvard Food Policy Law Clinic and Arkansas, I believe, Nicole in Arkansas. And we look forward to being able to start a broader discussion, because we do think that there are some opportunities through clarifying Ohio's rules and regulations and statutes that could really push the ball forward here and help reduce food waste around the state. Food date labeling is largely a state level set of policies, which is a bit odd. There's very few at the federal level, although there is some suggested language about date labeling coming out of both USDA, FSIS, and out of industry groups such as FMI, GMA, the Grocers Manufacturing Association. So a lot of activity in this space, and we hope that we might be able to bring some ideas to the table here in Ohio as well. Let's see here. Well, then it's passing back to me here. I'll give you kind of a brief list of things going on here around campus that haven't been touched on before. Picking up on the date labeling that Julia was just talking about, we are engaged using some OARDC, that's Experiment Station seed grant that was obtained by Dennis Henderson in the Food Science Department and myself, to look at how does changing the phrase that goes with the date label, how does that affect consumers' intentions to both purchase and discard key items that are often on that kind of highly wasted list at the consumer level. So right now we're developing and have a protocol into IRB, and are even reaching out and getting some nice input from several industry and research groups out there, such as ReFed, on how we might shape this research to really help inform some of these debates, such as how much would if people change to the Food Marketing Institute's and GMA's suggested new date label phrases, how much might we expect a reduction in waste? Because we'll bring consumers through, we'll have them look at an array of food products, we're going to manipulate the date labels so that they have different phrases on them, and see if their intended discard once they look at those products goes up or down depending on the phrasing of the dates. So that's underway. We're looking forward to pursuing that this summer. Also, there's I'm part of a study at USDA right now where we're trying to understand the drivers and economic motivations for waste at the field level and at the early supply chain levels for produce. And so, for example, I'm leading a group to pull together some discussions of case studies in the tomato sector, looking at estimates of field waste and early supply chain waste, and trying to understand the drivers there and how different policies and proposals that people put forth, how that may or may not be effective at reducing food waste and kind of redirecting those foods to higher values than just plowing them back under or losing them at various stages of the early supply chain. And there'll be deliverables for that project coming out in fall through December. Looking forward, we're looking to undertake some studies about ugly food, inventories of food and refrigerators and freezers, and looking to take some of our advancements in research, particularly the app that was talked about earlier, to look at a broader scale of sustainability through a NSF grant. We are working to submit a grant for the Food, Energy, Water Systems call by NSF this fall as well. There are other collaborators, Kathy Zhao in industrial engineering here on campus that we're working with as well to look at possible improvements through supply chain, kind of big data crunching and algorithms there to see if we can reduce food waste. And she's been very actively engaged in developing those techniques and working with the dairy sector right now to try to see if there might be ways to apply those to reduce waste there. And also, I'll be involved in helping put together a workshop for the National Academy of Sciences that will be coming up in the fall, and most in Washington, D.C. So stay tuned for that as the National Academies attempt to put together some high-level thinking about food waste and how to address that in a very systematic way. Julie, do you want to talk a bit about the fall event that we're also thinking about?
Sure. As we recently announced in our last newsletter, we've chosen the date of October 11th, which is a Thursday, for our 2018 conference. This will be the third year that the collaborative has put on a conference. This time it'll be a little bit later. We've tended to do it in August as the semester is starting, but for a lot of reasons, we're trying a different month, doing it in October. Our theme this year, it will be campus sustainability projects, highlighting not only what's happening here at Ohio State, but also around the country. We do have one committed speaker, Brenna Ellison from the University of Illinois, who does some research in the area of food choices in university dining halls. We will be building the agenda over the next month or so. I have also put out a call on the listserv to anybody who'd like to join our planning committee, and several of you I know on this call right now have agreed to do that, so we appreciate that, and I'll be organizing in the very near future a call for that group to get things off the ground, to start building the agenda, reaching out to potential conference sponsors, and building our marketing plan. So look for more information on that conference to be coming out in the coming month or so.
And that will be at the 4-H Center as per the past 2 years.
It will be at the 4-H Center where it has been the last 2 years, right here on campus, fairly convenient location, and it will be generally the same time frame, you know, an 8:30 to 3:30 type of conference, except on a Thursday this time in October.
And we think it will be recorded, but probably not live cast like we have in the past, just because the technology seems to never quite work.
The live stream has created challenges for us, not only with our budget, but with technology. So, and because of the number of people that actually prefer to watch it later on as a recording, as opposed to watching it live while it's happening, we've made a decision to record and make that available on our website after the fact.
Well, great. Are there any burning questions from around? I see there's one chat from Cher Mooring to Andrew Jones asking a question there. So if you can follow up offline with that, if you can view that chat, otherwise we'll capture that and connect the two of you afterwards.
And just because I didn't really share this ahead of time, we do record these meetings so that we can just have them for our record, and I will be sharing this with our listserv for those. We have a few people that signed up to participate that aren't on the call, and we do often get requests to watch the meeting after the fact. So this is being recorded.
And we do have a website, u.osu.edu/ is it go? I forget what it is. I think it's go.
It's a u.osu.edu /food waste /. That's
right. And there we'll be posting things. For example, the group, Corby, John, Denis, myself, just had a paper published in PLOS using a precursor app to the one that we've just developed with Pennington, looking at plate waste. And we documented that there was actually a very small amount of plate waste measured when people are measuring it in their own homes and are able to select their own meals as we do at home, versus the literature, which generally gets people's selections at cafeterias and places like that, where very large levels of plate waste were measured. So I'll try to post a link to that open access publication for those who might be interested at the website. But that'll be a good place to keep track of some of our goings on as well. And we'll probably post more about the upcoming Food Waste Conference. So right now we're at 29 after, and just appreciate everybody tuning in, and feel free to follow up with us by email if you have questions about any particular items. And thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.